And you are?
Alan Saraboff.
Peter Marietta.
Justine Bayman. Jill Kushner.
And Justine, tell us about your company.
FM78.TV is a independent production company dedicated to bringing the absolute best writing, best direction, best acting, etc., straight to the consumer via the internet.
So when did it hit you guys that this internet thing was going to be big?
During the strike.
Yeah.
Yeah, during the strike, when the issues became apparent that that was what we were fighting for, was a piece of the internet, and that the agendas were about using the internet as a non-union form to grow shows, we felt like we should start paying attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
And
what was your level of awareness before then?
My level of awareness before was I worked on some shows as a writer-producer where the company had asked me to get involved in their companion
in the promotional material,
which is not covered by the union. So I would have to say, that sounds all interesting. I can't do it unless you make it union. So that was my only connection to it, and I had never even considered working on the internet that way because it just felt like a crazy non-union, town.
When we did the Speechless campaign, I think it really opened our eyes further to the reach of this internet.
Yeah, so it was about the audience that was tuning in for those?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, pretty much everyone went viral. We had a great outpouring, great response, and we saw the reach that with the minimum budget that we had.
Yeah.
And,
Minimum. Very minimal.
Minimal would be the word. With the camera and tape that we had,
Yeah.
we reached a lot of people, and that was without utilizing traditional media, just by word of mouth. So,
I think during the strike too. I mean, when we saw how the media corporations were behaving towards the Writers Guild, and in the sense trying to imply that they were going to set the standard for how people were going to be paid and how the how the business grid was going to be on the internet, and everybody, in the picket lines looked at each other and went, "Wait a minute, they don't own the internet, and we can do whatever we want. They don't set the rules for what goes on the internet." So then we, decided to set some rules ourselves and do the productions ourselves.
Right. And I mean, the people out there have the relationship with you more than they have with the companies putting out
not
content.
Not only does the audience have a better relationship now with the content creators, and we can get that direct feedback and so forth, but also we as the content creators can have this direct relationship with the sponsors. So there's not this artificial, clumsy, in my opinion, product placement where it's inorganic, but rather more associative advertising where the characters are associating a value to that product. Where the characters in the project are associating value to this product, and consequently the audience is associating value to the product, and basically, during press and so forth, I mean, expressing our, in the future, our just thankfulness at a sponsor making it possible for us to shoot the project. So it's all going to be very organically woven in. If it's not organic to have a sponsor involved in a project, we're just not going to.
But that's how you're funding your projects.
In this one, I mean, Candy Inc. takes place at a candy factory, so it's quite natural to be talking to the major candy companies, just like it would be for the show The Office to be talking to Staples or Office Depot about involvement. It's very natural. It's what the characters would be talking about or referencing.
But I also think that you almost, in a way, without knocking them, you almost want to thank the media companies for, calling our attention to the value of the internet. You know what I mean? Because it's like running into somebody at a farmer's market where they say, you go, "Have you seen that house for sale up on the hill?" And they're like, "I have seen it. It is not good. It is not a good house." And then every time you try to talk about something else, they go, "Just to remind you again, that house on the hill is not good." And eventually you go, "I think I better go look at that house on the hill. It seems like they may want to buy it." So I think that to me was the sort of crucible that it all came out of.
Another good example along those lines is when you walk into a house and you know you want it, You walk in, you have that first rush of, oh my God, this place is great. I can't believe they're selling it for this price. And then you start verbally expressing how this isn't exactly what you had in mind.
Yeah.
Essentially,
it might
a
be
real estate
good.
company. Yeah, it might be good. You say to your realtor, you know, it's sort of like that other one we saw the other day, and I guess, I don't know, maybe we'll make it up. I'm not really sure. So that kind of treatment of it, too, during the strike. And then, of course, as the strike was rounding off, we saw these reports to Wall Street on, you know, how this company and that company is going to make $1 billion next year in digital. And
Yeah, that was well
so
timed.
you must have known that the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's sort of akin to
That was
that.
an awful lot of fight on the part of the AMPTP and the companies over something that has no future.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing it again.
Yeah, exactly. During the
So
SAC
I think that certainly was a good thing, you know. And I think anybody that thinks that the old media or the old method of television or distribution or creation of television is just in a wavelength where we're just in an area where, there'll be a ramp up at some point and there'll be 40 or 50 half hours just like there used to be and all that. I don't think so. I think there's an evolution going on, and I think that when that evolution's over, you know, we'd like to be one of the stakeholders.
Yeah, but you guys are taking a dare I say, independent-minded approach to the internet in that you want to make it the same level of everything else that you're making.
Yeah, we are, and I think that's what sets us apart, and I think that's what is, you know, the bet we're willing to make on the success of our company.
How big of a bet is this for you?
Well, right now it's our time and our careers. I mean, you know, we're all doing pretty well in our careers, but we're betting on the future. You know.
And like Alan was saying, I mean, it's where we want to be spending all our time. We want to be making our projects without getting a multitude of corporate notes. I mean, that sounds phenomenal. That sounds like a dream. Yes, I'll take it.
But don't you think in some way you're going to be trading one set of notes for another?
No.
So like, you're getting network notes now, but a sponsor is going to go, can we do
Here's the
something
thing,
else?
you're right, it's a good question.
It's a
Here's a
different
good question.
set of
When we
needs.
first started meeting with people, and they would say, tell us about the show, we would roll into pitch mode, right? Sell mode. We're going to sell the show, just like we always do, just like I always do every spring and every summer and every fall, and all the times you got to go in and sell the show. And what you realized, or what I realized going in is, yes, people want to know about the show, but they want the input that they have that they want to give you, and what they're looking for right away is, how is what you're doing? Like they're sort of acknowledging you're the expert at making the show. Tell us about it enough to understand it, and then tell us where our opportunities are. You know. And in the other world, it's walking into rooms where, you know, everyone feels like they're expert storytellers. And they're the people with the checkbook, and you want to help them, and some of them are good at that, and some aren't. But that's the game you're playing. So it's a different set of notes. It's a totally different set of notes.
And the notes that we have had so far on the scripts are amongst ourselves. I mean, I'll take a note anytime from a great writer. Absolutely. It's going to make the project better. I mean, we had a friend who's, really talented, and we were telling him about the story, and this was early on before we started writing, when we first had done, the outlines for all the episodes. And he said, CJ, the main character, he said, she needs to get to X point, a lot sooner or something. And we had never considered it going like that, but it really made it a much better show. And so we totally incorporated that note into the show. But that is not the media corporation experience.
Can you just pause for a second and tell us the gist of the show?
Sure. The gist of the show. It's based. The main character is CJ, which Justine is playing, and she's pretty much grown up away from her family's business. Her dad runs a second-tier candy company called Stubbs Sweets, and it's the last thing she really wants to have anything to do with. She's pretty much a rock and roll chick. She lives off of her family's money that her trust fund that she's had access to. She's not a bad person at all. She's just sort of careless, runs around with bands. She wants to be authentic and what she defines as an authentic life. And she gets kind of into this trouble one too many times, and her dad kind of reels her back in for a visit at the candy factory and says, hey, listen, you know what, enough's enough. You are going to work here and earn a paycheck, and that's how you're going to get your money, just like everybody else. And so that's where we sort of start the show and meet some of the characters. And you want to...
Oh, and then much to CJ's horror, she discovers that she actually has kind of a genius gift for running a candy company. She knows exactly how they should change the formulas to fix them, exactly how to market different items, and so she really feels like she needs to keep that under wraps, because Daddy might want her to stay there forever if he found this out. At the same time, you have Jeff Garland playing the CFO, who thought he was next in line to run this candy company after CJ's dad retires. And he knows he has no creative ideas, so once he finds that out about CJ, and she wants her secret kept quiet, he wants the fact that she's stealing her ideas and passing them off to CJ's dad as his own to be kept quiet. So they're just like oil and water, so they have this very uneasy agreement with each other, and they really dislike each other.
It's
So,
hilarity ensues.
that element.
And
There's
it's a
lots of
comedy.
other stories, within.
It's about what happens when people have dreams that maybe they shouldn't have.
Yeah. That's it in a nutshell.
What's your distribution strategy? Do you want to turn FM 78 into a destination, or are you looking to? How are you looking to? There are more outlets than ever for web video.
That.
True. There you go.
No, the second thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Because
The site itself is going to be a place for people to go to find out where to go see all our stuff.
B2B, B2F.
Okay? That way, when we do traditional media PR, we'll always try to drive that audience to that site. We know that site will always be there.
But also, if you have a sponsor, it's not about the traffic.
It's not, but we do want to get it out there, and it is about the traffic to show the sponsor that we're getting it out to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But the reason we're not running it off of our site, we're going to all the different outlets, is A, traffic, and B, with 6 months, who's to say who's not the next big site that you want to distribute on? Why go everywhere on radio and TV and say go to Hulu if 9 months from now Hulu's not around? Because NBC and 20th fought in a big fight. And
Sounds
right?
like you caught up pretty well in the last 6 months.
Right? Because they're going to have a huge fight at some point. The whole thing got created because they had a huge fight with YouTube. So
Yeah.
that's going to be a wonderful marriage that will last for